we have got to get some pantry clean out done. We have a pantry challenge coming. And if I'm going to do a pantry challenge properly, I should probably use up all these little bits and pieces that I have kicking around my kitchen. So a couple of things we're going to do is we're using up a failed bread baking, and we're actually just going to make some dressing, you know, like the stuffing. So I'm making this kind of dressing that I grew up with, which has got bacon, onion, potatoes, the bread, the poultry seasoning, the sage, all that kind of stuff. And we tend to use it like if we're just having drumsticks or we're baking a couple of chicken thighs, stuff like that. We just kind of use it as a side dish. And it works out well. So it's basically our starch, and then we have our veggies or whatever. So we're going to make some of those. We have all this random pasta, which is not enough really for one meal. So we're just going to put some pasta with some meat and sauce in bags, and we'll get those in the freezer. And we're also going to go back to the traditional tater tot casserole, but we're going to add, we've got a few of these samples that I've had kicking around. We're going to add a couple of these to it just so I can get that nice oniony flavor too. So what else are we doing today? We're also making a big pot of baked beans that are going to go into containers in the freezer because I'm not going to can them up. And well, we'll talk about that another day. But I want to get them in the freezer in containers because we're going to plan on using that barbecue more often, so I can thaw them out, put them in a little pot, and get them just warming up nicely on the barbecue. But let's start with the baked beans. Now these are not the little navy beans. These are actually, what kind of beans are these again? Yeah, I had to think about that for a moment. These are the Great Northern beans. So they, by the time they're cooked, they're going to be about the same size as cannellini beans. Now, oops, I missed a bad one. All right, time to get these cooking. These need to cook for a half an hour, and then we're going to get them in the oven. So the recipe for the beans, not much different than what we've really ever done before. Of course, have to have an onion. Now, when I made these beans, I did put less vinegar in. So what I did is I added a jar of tomato sauce. We added about 1.5 onions because I saved half. 3/4 of a cup of brown sugar. We added some salt, dried mustard, and also the water from the beans, which of course you need to save. And we added a half a can of tomato paste to that as well. So that way we had all the great flavors. And it just stirred it all up, and in the oven it went. Smelled great, and I hadn't even cooked it yet. So those are now cooking in the oven at 380 degrees, 280 degrees. Oh my gosh. So basically low and slow, all right? They will take quite a while. Those are bigger beans. Like they said, they're not navy beans. They're almost like a cannellini bean, but they're called the Great Northern White Beans, so it's a bigger bean. Like I said, we have stuff we need to use up. I had 2 bags of those, so that is an entire bag of beans that I put into soak last night. We cooked them for about a half an hour, saved the water, of course, after we cooked them, because you need to add the water in so you can actually cook them in the pot. And they're going to slowly cook away for the rest of the afternoon. Okay, the beans have been cooking. That's dinner, in case you're wondering. Oh, doesn't that look good? All right, let me get the spoon and we'll see how well these guys are coming on. I don't think, let me do it this side. I don't think we need to add any more liquid. Yeah, they're not, yeah, we don't need to add any more liquid. Oh, but don't they look good? Look at that. That is some fabulous looking baked beans. Alrighty, I'm gonna put the lid on, let it cook a little bit longer. The beans are done. I haven't looked yet. I thought we'd look together. You ready? Oh. Let's get the spoon. Okay, you ready? Don't they look fabulous? They smell wonderful. So these have to cool down a lot before they're gonna go into containers and in the freezer. But I think I need to taste them. Hold on. Let me get a spoon now. A little one. Now I'd give these to Freddie as a taste test, but these are way too hot for him to try yet. And then I'd never hear the end of it. I really wouldn't. Oh, they're nice and creamy. Check it out. Oh, looks good. Smells good. Wow, these came out so good. It's got a light tomato flavor, a little bit sweet. Now I only put, what, 2 tablespoons? Not even, of apple cider vinegar. Probably should have put a little more salt, but that's okay. I can actually put salt in now. It's not a big deal, because I think we put, it was about maybe a tablespoon, like barely any. But these, totally worth it. Now I gotta try and remember the recipe. We will get the tater tot casserole out of the way, and then we will get the pasta and the potatoes cooked. So we've done this before. When you need to cook a fair amount of hamburger, just spread it out on a tray. Perfect. So we're gonna be making probably only about 4 or 5 little freezer meals together today, but a couple other things too that, you know, why not? All right, so it's all spread out, loosened up. We're gonna cook this in the oven, and then about partway through, we'll take our hamburger separator to it and bake it a little bit more. Okay, so we have most of a bag of mixed vegetables. I want to use this one up. This is the oldest bag that was left in the freezer. We do have another full brand new bag as well, so we'll be using that over the next month or so. Our mushroom soup and our evaporated milk. Now, I will redo this whole recipe for you so you know what it is. Are you ready? This is really, really hard. Just so you know, it's really, really, really hard. Okay? Look. Evaporated milk. And mushroom soup. That's it. Told you it was really, really hard. Alrighty. Got to scrape all the goodness off of the mushroom soup can. Just a second. Waste not, want not. And an entire can of mushroom soup. There we go. I wonder. I was curious. They don't put recipes underneath the labels anymore. That's unfortunate. Very unfortunate. Now, just so you know, this is actually a dip mix. You can add it to anything, but I have jars of this too, but I forgot that I actually had some packages. We'll start with one. We'll see how it comes out. I think we only need one. Now, you don't have to make this with meat. You can use chicken, you can use hamburger like we are. This was one of the last large packages of hamburger that I needed to use up. We're actually going to be using this for 4 different recipes today. It works out to be about a cup in each bag of the meat. Not a lot. We don't need a lot. We have our tater tots. Now, when I tried this using just raw potato, it was a fail. I'm not gonna lie, guys, it tasted good, but it just wasn't for us, I guess. So half a bag in each. And this uses up the last of the tater tots that we had in the freezer. And I'm actually going to use all of the vegetables because we are trying to eat more veggies. And it seems like the frozen veggies and the canned veggies are the way to go for us. It just seems to work out better. But all these veggies are going in. And then half of this goes into each one, just like that. Alrighty. Mixy, mixy. Tater tots. Smart person would have labeled the bags first. Okay. This is the absolute easiest recipe in the world. If you don't want to use canned mushroom soup, don't use canned mushroom soup. You want to use cream of chicken soup, cream of celery soup. You want to make your own cream of chicken soup with stock or whatever, go for it. You can actually put whatever sauce you want. Now, we've discovered that the mushroom and the evaporated milk works out really, really well. Tastes great. You don't have to add any added salt. And the only thing we do to this is I put cheese, because, hey, I'm a cheese girl, and breadcrumbs or panko or something on the top to give that crunchy, crunchy. Bake it in the oven, half an hour, done. So when we're ready for this, I literally just pour it into a 9x9 cake pan, casserole pan, or whatever. Sometimes the pie plate, depends on what I have. In the oven it goes. So easy. Fred can do it. I just tell him, hey dear, put dinner in the oven. All right, let me clean this mess up. And then we'll continue on with our next use up dinner. That'll go in the freezer. Okay, meal number 2. Like I said, this is a clean out. We're getting rid of partials. So we had a bigger thing of hamburger in the freezer that we needed to use up. We had a partial bag of vegetables that I wanted out. That was the oldest one. And we have these. We have macaroni. There's actually like 2 different kinds in there. We have little shells. We have lasagna noodles. And we have rotini and rigatoni. I want to use these up. So the way I figure the best way to do it is we will cook them. Of course, not 100% because we're going to bake them afterwards when we're actually ready to eat them. But we're going to cook them, get them in bags, add some tasty sauce, and put them in the freezer so I can actually fill these up properly again and use them the way I like to use them. We are putting this together. We're going to put it together cold, just so you know. The pasta is still warm, but that's okay. So the last of that hamburger is going in. Now it's probably about 2 cups, maybe, give or take. We are not doing like fast and furious measurements. We are putting in a big jar of tomatoes, which will give us lots of good liquid. Lots of tomatoes. But we're also using a cheater sauce. This is the thick and zesty garlic because, hey, we're cleaning out the pantry. If I do need to add a little bit more of saucy anything, I still have a little bit of tomato paste in the fridge, but I kind of want to use that to go on our spare ribs for dinner. All right, stir all this up. So let me get a little bit of water in this jar because we're not wasting all that fabulous spaghetti sauce. We're gonna add some parsley, but we're also gonna put some oregano in here because I like it. Yeah, I know, everybody else puts basil. I like oregano. Might as well just use that same measuring cup. It's the same hamburger. Perfect, look at that. 2 more pantry clean out meals in the freezer. Get as much air out as possible. Again, prevent the freezer burn, prevent the freezer burn. I'll get these in the freezer and then we'll continue on and we'll get the dressing finished. 2 more clean outs. So another thing that we're putting in the freezer to use things up, mostly potatoes and ugly bread, is a dressing. Now, yes, I have bacon. The dressing that we make, it's, I don't know, I don't even know who started making it. I don't know if it was my grandmother, if it was my mother. I honestly have no clue anymore. But this is just a dressing that we grew up with, and I like it. And what goes in it is just whatever you have. But a couple of the main things are bacon and mashed potatoes. Now, personally, I think the mashed potatoes just might have been put in as a let's use them up kind of thing. Who knows? But the first thing we need to do is cut this bacon up into little pieces. I'm not going to put all of this in the dressing, by the way. We're actually saving a little bit for our potato salad, just because, you know, why not? Okay, clean cutting board, washed my knife. Time to dice up a couple of onions. And these are actually going to be cooked in the bacon fat. All right, so now we're going to let the bacon and the onions cook together. Now we're going to get the potatoes cooked because we're going to do both, basically, our potato salad and our potatoes all in the same pot. So we're going to cut those up, get them in the pot and get them boiled and cooked. And we're going to put this one together. So it is potato time. So like I said, we're doing this kind of 2 birds with 1 stone kind of thing. So what I decided to do is we're going to cut the potatoes all about that size because I want a really chunky potato salad today. And I'm just going to cut them all up, put them right back in this bowl. Alrighty guys, we're making dressing. So what I have here is a failed loaf of bread. I don't know what I did. I think I overproofed it terribly. It tastes great, just so you know. But it did not rise well. But this stuff will make fabulous dressing because this will crumble up, break up. We'll add all the tasty flavors to this. And then I have like instant dressing in the freezer ready to go when I want it without spending the time to make dressing. Now, Christmas, all that kind of stuff, we make dressing then too. And to be honest, I always make extra and put it in the freezer anyway. So this whole loaf of bread, I am putting in this dressing because it's too dense for anything other than a bread pudding or dressing. So I might have to use the great big bowl because I think this bowl's not going to fit. Okay, it's time to put our dressing together, guys. There's not a lot of onion in there, but we're going to be adding some onion powder and some garlic powder as well. We have the potatoes, which are cool enough now. We can get them in there. Let's dump all these in. So we'll have a little bit of garlic. Okay, more than a little bit. And some onion powder. Sage and poultry seasoning. Yeah, I like a lot. I'm really weird. A little bit of salt. And we're going to use the pre-ground pepper for this one. There we go.
Let's give this a quick little stir up. And then the last ingredient that goes in this is chicken stock or chicken broth. So this is just one of those chicken broth cans. You don't have to add water to it, but we want this, well, I want it wet, actually. I mean, it is damp now, but the whole point is get it nice and damp, and then it comes out crispy and not overly dried out when you actually cook it. So now normally if I'm doing this like with a fresh cooked chicken or something, I'd be using all the same amount of broth, but it would have come out of the roast pan with a little extra water or a little extra stock mixed in, stuff like that. Alrighty, now I'm shooting for 3 bags, but it looks like we have enough for 4. So I did bring 4 bags with me. All right, let's scoop it in. You can put these in smaller bags if you wanted to, but I want them in these bags because they'll freeze fast and they'll freeze flat. So I know dressing, this kind of stuff, is not everybody's cup of tea. But the whole plan for me was to not waste that failed loaf of bread. So why not use it up and make something that we actually like? I had that little bit of bacon left, so we cooked that up. We have onions that I had bought, but they weren't the best, so they do need to get used up, so we used that up. We used some of those potatoes up because we have a lot of potatoes still from the fill your boots that we had done last fall. And we're probably gonna do it again. I'm not gonna lie, but just not so many potatoes. And we used one of the chicken stocks up, needs to get used up. The other thing we did, we used up the oldest frozen large thing of hamburger that we had in the freezer, random pasta that we had in the cupboard. And what else did we do? Oh yeah. The last of the oldest bag of veggies, the last bag of tater tots, one of our jars of tomatoes, because they need to get used, because we need to use up our jarred food just as much as our pantry food. So the whole idea was clean out. So we did a lot of clean out. We've got some healthy dinners in the freezer. We still have a few dinners from our last freezer meal day. And then, of course, by the time Pantry Challenge officially starts here soon, we've got other things to pull from. So, I mean, I admit I may want dressing, but do I want to spend all the time to make a little thing of dressing when I've got 4 that I can just open, toss in a little dish and put it in the oven? Mission accomplished. So, here we go. That's our quick little pantry clean out cooking day. You don't want to see how many dishes are over there. So I'm going to clean this mess up. Anyway, guys, thanks for coming out. Thanks for watching. I appreciate each and every one of you. And come along with us next time as we continue on our simpler life here on PEI. Bye for now.